What's up everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I am going to be replacing the electronic tailgate lift support. As you can see here in the video, if your tailgate is doing this, then you want to keep watching. So whenever I open up my tailgate, it goes to the top and it actually ends up sagging down, and it gets so frustrating that I try to move it up and it doesn't do absolutely anything at all. So I ended up finding this electronic tailgate lift support on Amazon, made by a brand called A Premium. It is a really good product that I am going to link below if you guys want to pick it up for yourself. They were under $300 for them in total, and Audi wanted way too much money to replace this, that I thought I would just give this a try on my own, and I figured I would film it to help everybody else out. So if you guys appreciate this video, make sure you smash the like button, because that does help the video, push it out to more people, and it's free of charge. So thank you for your support, and let's dive into it. First thing you want to do is get a broom. I am going to link something similar to this down in the description. This is basically going to provide support to the hatch so that when we take the struts off, it's not going to fall on your head. So basically I'm just putting it in the opening for the latch on the bottom, and then on the top I'm letting it rest on the latch itself. So we want to go to the back seats. We want to fold these down on the driver's side and the passenger side. So this is the electronic lift support, has a wire and a plug similar to the OEM. This part is basically the same exact thing as the OEM version, just a heck of a lot cheaper. So first thing we want to do is remove the weather stripping on the back. So what you're going to do is just peel it back, and you're going to notice that there's like a white Bondo type substance on there, and that's just going to help the weather strip adhere to the body of the car. Peel it back from top to bottom, and we're just going to get that out of the way. This is like the grocery bag little latch, and we do have to remove this in order to get behind it. So we're just going to take this trim tool and we're going to pull it out and upward, and that's going to release it. Behind it is going to be a Torx 20 in size. So I'm going to link this tool down in the description if you don't have one. A lot of European cars use this type of tool, but it's like a star head type. So we are just going to remove that T20 Torx screw, and that is going to allow us to be able to access this panel to pull it off. So make sure you take that off first before you try to remove this panel. So there are 3 clips, 1, 2, and 3 on this panel. All we're going to do is take a trim tool like this, and we're going to pry that plastic back, and then we're going to pull that plastic towards us. So you're just going to pull it back firmly. A couple clips are going to pull out, and on this side you just want to make sure that the seat belt slides out of that little slit there. Next, take the trim tool on the top of the seat pillar, shove it in there, and just pull it back. There's going to be a couple clips on the top, so you're going to slide it up and then pull away from yourself, and this is going to unlatch the top section of the seat pillar to give you access. This is the top of the seat pillar. There is a little L type shape hook bracket, and this is where it slides in and out of. So that's where it is on the bottom, and you want to slide it to the right, and it gives it more of an opening to pop back. These are just a couple clips that are going to be located on the side, really easy to take off. So now I'm just going to pull back the bottom plastic and kind of shove the seat pillar in there. You can use bungee cords too if you want to help hold this back, or just have someone else do it. I just did this because I was by myself. We're going to get that connector located in the back, and we're just going to push our finger on it and pull back. Next, we're going to take our hook and pick tool, and there is a little piece of plastic on the outside of this clip that we're just going to try to push down. And while you're pushing that down, you want to be pulling away with both hands, and this is going to be able to release this clip. There's a little clip on the back that plugs into the cards to keep it in place, so make sure if that slides off, you put it back on. Next, we're going to be taking the weather stripping off of this plug, and we're going to be using our hook and pick tool set. Pry this under the weather strip. That lifts up pretty easily and just comes out of the notch. After that, we are going to take the cable, we are going to feed the wire up through the hole to the outside so that we can begin removing this electronic strut. So just put that off to the side. Next, we're going to remove these 2 8mm star nut screws. This is the tool that I will link down in the description for you so that you can take these out. This is a special tool. Most people don't have that tool, and I'm just going to use a 3/8 little ratchet. So we're going to start by just loosening it with the ratchet, and then after that you can just kind of spin it off by hand. Now we're going to take care of the upper screw. Be careful that you don't scratch your paint on your car, this is going to want to start hanging down, and this is when you want to shove a microfiber underneath it if you can, just so it doesn't scratch and fly off, and just make sure that your broomstick is in there or something so the hatch just doesn't fall, because it's going to have a lot less support now to hold it up. Now we are going to remove the top screws to the upper bracket of the strut, and we are going to do this the same way we took off the bottom ones. Take your time and be patient, and you want to start holding the strut with your left hand, at least on this side, so that you make sure this thing doesn't just fall and scratch your quarter panel. All right, now we can remove the strut. So now we can focus on these little clips in the back, and you want to shove your hook and pick tool inside that clip. And I also am taking a flathead screwdriver just to give it a little bit more tension, and you want to shove that in there and kind of release it back so that you can take out that hinge bracket. And this is what it looks like from the inside. Now we're going to do the other side of the strut, shove the hook and pick tool in, and we're going to take our flathead screwdriver to release a little bit more tension, and then that bracket will come right out. And those clips are the only thing holding on the brackets. So this is the old strut and this is the new one. They look completely identical. That sleeve was starting to crack and get stuck on the right side, and honestly this aftermarket strut looks just the same as the OEM one in my opinion. The build quality on this is really nice, and if you take a look at both connectors, they are completely identical. So this just shows the build quality of this brand. Now we're going to take this bracket and I'm just going to rub this old grease off of it. Probably not a bad idea to put some new grease in there. I ended up not doing that, but I probably would recommend it if I did this again, but I did just want to clean off that old grimy grease. Next, we're going to peel back these clips on the new struts so that we can get the bracket in. Make sure that you know which bracket was the top and the bottom, because they both are different. So if you look on the inside here, as I have this pushed in, as I move this back and forth, you can see the inside of the clip moving, so that'll release tension from the ball joint of that bracket so that it can come out and so that it can go back in. So this one went in super easy, and honestly you want to try to not remove those clips altogether, because once you take them off entirely, they are a little bit tricky to put back on. So try to just take them off halfway and just push them to go back on. Next, I'm going to take the bracket for the other side and I'm going to clean this one up as well. And this does show you which side is up on the bracket for installation. So this is going to be the bottom side of the strut, and we are going to pull that clip back on this side, release some of that tension so that we can put that ball joint bracket in place. Make sure you lock the clip. And it's not a bad idea to move this around afterward and give it a pull just to make sure that it is on. If you notice on this bracket, it has an upward position, and this is going to show you the orientation that you want to keep this in when you bolt it to the hatch and to the body of the car. I am going to place my microfiber towel on the body side of this car just so I don't scratch it up, and then we want to orientate the top of the bracket so that it is lining up with the holes. And this is where I started to have an issue, because the hatch was actually still supported by that broomstick and I couldn't get these brackets to actually line up, and what I needed to do was grab somebody else, in this case my wife, and you want them to push on the hatch upward, because the more that you push up, the bolts will just line up. So a huge shout out to my wife for holding that hatch up, because I know that wasn't easy to keep it held for the entirety of me screwing in these bolts. So make sure you leave a like on this video for her. Now that she's holding that up, those brackets line up perfectly, so you can just put the screws in and just start spinning them on by hand. And this is the part when it started to get pretty heavy, and I'm really appreciative for my wife for hanging in there. She's doing such a good job. So as she was pushing up on the hatch, that allowed me to be able to line up this bottom bracket, and this bottom bracket still has the up sign on it, so you know which side is facing up. Tighten in these screws by hand, and then afterward we're going to tighten them down with the ratchet. Make sure that you don't tighten up these screws all the way. You want to make sure that you put the screws in each side of the bracket on top and bottom just a little bit. Keep it loose so that you can have some wiggle room to play around with it. So now we're just going to take these screws and we're going to tighten them up on both sides of the bracket. I couldn't find a torque spec for these screws, so I just tightened them up hand tight a little bit more, and everything's working out fine for me. But you probably are going to need somebody to lift the hatch up to keep the pressure and tension off while you tighten these down. Next, we're going to take the wire from the new electronic tailgate lift support and we're going to shove it through the hole the same way that the old one came out. So just take your time. You have to turn the connector a certain degree in order to get it through the holes. You want to make sure that this top sealing piece of rubber door clicks in place so that no water goes inside of that. Take the new connector with the old connector and you're just gonna click it on. We're gonna take this little push clip and shove it through the hole in the back that you can see up here, and it's just gonna keep it in its own little place out of the way so it's not hanging. Next, we're just gonna run the wires around the side, and there are a couple spots that it will click into just to keep the wire out of the way. But this part really isn't that big of a deal. You can kind of see the orientation that I ran the wire. Next, we're gonna take that hook clip and we're gonna push that in, slide that down in place, and then we're just gonna push the rest of the clips and they will fall in place on the C-pillar. Don't be afraid to give it a couple whacks. This helps the clips actually line up. We're gonna take the lower half of this plastic trim and you're gonna wanna make sure the fabric is tucked in on the lower part of the trim, and this seat belt goes over this part. There's a little spot for it to slide into. Make sure that that's in there so that you don't get it caught and rip your seat belt if it's not on the bottom. Give it a couple whacks. Make sure that the clips are all locked in place and everything should look perfect. After that, you're gonna take the seat belt and put it over in its spot. We're gonna take the T20 screw and we're gonna screw that back in so this piece of plastic stays on. Then we're gonna grab that little grocery bag hook clip and put it in place. It notches on the top first and then you're just gonna push down. And that is it. We got one side down completely. So this thing looks absolutely amazing. It looks perfect. It looks just like the OEM one would. Don't forget to take your weather stripping and you're gonna wanna make sure that this does line up correctly. Take your time on this and make sure that it's around the plastic because you don't wanna have water leak into your car and create a whole new problem for yourself. All right, so this is basically the same exact thing for the other side. So I didn't wanna bore you by showing you that. All you got to do is repeat the same steps. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that off camera and I'll meet you back here in a second. All right guys, so now both sides are completely done. So you want to make sure when it's at the top, you hold the tailgate close button down for 3 seconds until you hear a beep. And then after you hear that beep, you are going to hit it one more time and it's going to beep a couple times after that until it completely closes. This is going to be a factory reset. So you want to make sure that you do this process just because something could have came out of alignment when you were doing the job or before. If the hatch wasn't opening enough and you were moving it up and down yourself, you could take it out of alignment. So make sure you hold that button for 3 seconds until it flashes and then hit it again to close it and you will be all good to go. All right guys, now that we're done with the whole installation, make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe if this video helped you out. And this is another video of my wife after she is stoked out of her mind that this is fixed now and she has access to her hatch because she uses it every single day and she's so excited. So I got some brownie points and we're gonna see you guys in the next video. Peace.